Welcome to Hood Champion. Make this damn thing, make sure it's working properly. Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll leave that donation for the fried rice and chicken wings because, man, I'm actually getting pretty excited about this whole Canelo and Crawford fight. But I'm getting a little irritated because I'm hearing Canelo fans say Crawford's resume sucks. And I'm hearing the Crawford fans say that Canelo's resume sucks. So I took a little time to try to figure out, since Crawford and Canelo is kind of becoming, resume wars, what they're saying with Crawford, everything that he's done, his resume is built on dominance, skills, paying the bills. And as far as Canelo, it's just about catching fighters with big names at the right time. Not that Canelo has the skills to really beat anybody prime for prime. And that Reynoso is running a drug cartel over there. And you have to put an asterisk over all of Canelo's big wins because you just don't know how much Mexican beef he's consumed and how many times he's done that and they've been able to mask it or been able to go underneath the radar. And I'm like, man, fans don't play around. Fortunately for me, I'm not a fan of either one. I'm a boxing fan, so, I could care less. But I think there's a little bit of truth to both. I think there's a whole lot of, exaggeration. But the reality is this, when it comes to Terence Crawford, I heard him bring up the name Ricky Burns, man. Now, he and Ricky Burns scrapped back in 2014. And I see that Canelo laughed it off, and a lot of boxing fans laughed it off. To be honest with you, Ricky Burns was a fight that Crawford wasn't supposed to win. At the time, he was a WBO lightweight champion. Was from Scotland. Crawford went over to Scotland and did the business. And for those who didn't know, man, Burns was a 3-time world champion, had defended the WBO belt multiple times. So no one expected this unknown guy from Omaha, Nebraska. Matter of fact, the way they were referring to Omaha, Nebraska then is kind of how they refer to Deontay Wilder being from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Like they just make fun of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they make fun of Omaha, Nebraska. But the reality is, just like Deontay Wilder could fight, Crawford's ass could scrap. And he went over there and won a wide unanimous decision and picked up his first world title. Then after that, when you're looking at the resume, then you got Yuriorkis Gamboa. Now, you got to understand, man, Yuriorkis Gamboa, and they scrapped in 2014, so this was around the same time where he had fought Burns. Gamboa was a menace. Gamboa was the Cuban, he was a Cuban missile crisis when he got in that ring. Speed, power, footwork, IQ, everything you wanted in a fighter. He just was small. But he put the bing-bings on Crawford and turned Crawford into a Puerto Rican. Matter of fact, turned him to a Cuban because everybody out there be dancing salsa. Had Crawford dancing salsa in the ring, didn't he? But you saw what happened with Crawford, man. Came back, dropped him 4 times, stopped him. And he was hurting him. I mean, he was badly hurting him. But what I'll tell you is that fight is what put Crawford on the map because he was in a firefight. And remember, 50 Cent had walked Gamboa out. Gamboa got knocked out. 50 Cent was nowhere to be seen. 50 Cent got out of the promoting business after Crawford beat the shit out of Gamboa. But I'm just saying that for me, that was one of Crawford's most thrilling wins because I think what makes fighters great is when they get hurt and go through adverse situations and have to deal with anxiety inside the ring, and they still find a way to win. And Crawford was able to do that. Anyway, he bubbles up to 140. 2015, the next year, and he fights against Thomas Delorme. Now, let me tell you, Delorme was a monster at a certain point in time in his career. Not the Delorme that fought Virgil Ortiz at 154, and Virgil Ortiz didn't even weigh in at 154, and he ended up getting stopped right with a body shot. Delorme was a top 10 contender at the time, and they were scrapping at 140 for the vacant WBO title. Now, if he would have beat Crawford, he would have had a title at 140 pounds. But it just didn't really go that way. Crawford was able to get him out of there in 6. But this goes to show you that there's something special about the hands of Terence Crawford. So people don't want to give him credit for that win. Then you talk about Victor Postal. Now, this is the name that's really, I think, is under scrutiny because Victor Postal was the boogeyman. But people still want to downplay that win that Crawford had over Victor Postal. He was the undefeated WBC champion at the time, man. He was ranked number 2 at 140 pounds. So he was a man. He was a problem, and he was the man. But you see, you guys may not remember Lucas Matisse. Lucas Matisse was the guy who fought Zab Judah, and they robbed Lucas Matisse. Lucas Matisse was knocking everybody out. Danny Garcia fought Lucas Matisse. He was afraid of him. And then Danny Garcia started to get his confidence up, and he ended up stopping Lucas Matisse. But Lucas Matisse at that time was just an Argentinian bull. Lucas Matisse had people shook the same way Triple G had people shook. You know what I mean? Like people would say there's a monster at 140. Just like they were saying with Triple G, was a monster in his weight division. But you saw Victor Postal, man, had just dominated Matisse. So no one gave Crawford a chance because remember, Matisse was the boogeyman. Anyway, Crawford outclassed him in a unification bout and got the win. So now Crawford is on the map because he's beaten guys who beat guys who most people felt probably would have never lost in their careers. Then he goes and fights Julius Ndongo. Now, this was a fight. Look, you can't blame Crawford if the man is so powerful and so good that he makes these guys look like they don't belong in the ring with him. Gets in there with Ndongo, man. Ndongo's status at the time was the undefeated IBF and WBA champion. Crawford went in there, man. He had just upset Ricky Burns, and he put the bing-bings on him. You know, knocked him out in the 3rd round, become undisputed at 140 pounds. He didn't hold on to them belts long. He jumped up to 147 pounds. Then in 2018, fought Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn had just come off of the win. Although it was controversial out there in Australia with Manny Pacquiao. I watched that fight. I mean, it depends on what you want to look at. Yeah, I can see Pacquiao win. I can see Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn fought like a pig. You know, he's a dirty fighter, man. But the bottom line is, he was coming off a Pacquiao win. And Crawford wanted him. Jeff Horn was a big, strong, 147-pounder. And Crawford went in there, man, and he dominated and stopped him to become the WBO champion. And Crawford and the WBO have a good relationship because Crawford has always represented the WBO. Then he went and fought Amir Khan in 2019. Amir Khan with the fast hands, he just wasn't able to really, get going in the fight with Crawford, man. He was a former unified 140-pound champion, man. Past his prime, but he had a name. You got to be real about that. Crawford was able to get him out of there. Supposedly a low blow. That was bullshit. Khan was just feeling that goddamn Omaha, Nebraska power. And Crawford was putting them bing-bings on him. And Khan was looking for a way out. Same way Zab Judah looked for a way out when he fought Amir Khan. Went out there and fought Kell Brook in 2020. I remember Kell Brook was a former IBF champion. He had fought Triple G and fought Spence. Went up to fight Triple G in fighting Triple G at the wrong time. Triple G was in his prime, was a monster. But, hey, that's what happens when you dare to be great. You go up and shit happens. Then after that, he fought Earl Spence. So he was already damaged from the Triple G fight. He gave Earl Spence hell, but Earl Spence happened to get the win. Then Crawford happened to pick him up after. So most people aren't giving him credit for the Kell Brook win because Triple G had already destroyed him. Earl Spence had broke him down. And then Crawford came back and got him. And, the way he stopped him in the 4th round was really awkward. But it just shows you the power that Crawford has. So Kell Brook wasn't really in his prime anymore, but he was still dangerous. Then he fought Sean Porter, and I think we all feel that was a fight, for me, that Crawford deserved more credit because it looked like he may have been behind them scorecards. And this just shows the trainer-to-trainee relationship and how important it is, but how strong it is in their corner. The team told Crawford, yo, you down. You're losing. And he was like, what? Nah. And he said, all right. And he shut up. And it's like a switch went off. And then Crawford got his ass in that ring and stopped Porter. Porter's dad was like, nah, because he knew Crawford would have hurt his son. But anyway, man, Porter at that time had gone the distance with Spence, gone the distance with Thurman. So Porter was qualified, and he was what people were saying was the first real test for Crawford at 147. But he just let everybody know there that, you know what, that Porter's just like the rest of them. But they gave him some flack because Porter, according to many, he wasn't in his prime. But when his dad came out and said there were things he wasn't doing in training camp, and he knew that the outcome was going to be what it was. So I don't know. I think his father was foul for that, but Crawford deserved all the credit in the world. Then he fought Earl Spence. Let me tell you something, man. Like 75% of people felt Earl Spence was going to beat Crawford. I said Earl Spence is going to come in with them shots, and Crawford going to find the openings and pick them apart because Crawford fights with his eyes. And I had a lot of people, you know, of course, the bandwagoners. You don't know shit about boxing. I'm like, oh man, so I guess you do, right? We're all crystal balling it over here. Nobody knows the outcome. The only people who know who's going to win in the fight is the secret society. Y'all know that shit exists. I haven't talked about them for a while, but the secret society knows who's going to goddamn win the fight. We don't. We can only speculate, predict, and dialogue. And that's what we do on this channel. But anyway, man, Crawford got in there, man. Spence was the undefeated unified WBC, WBA, and IBF champion. And we all saw what happened. You know, at the time, he was top 3 pound for pound. He was the man who was supposed to go up and kick Canelo's ass. Remember all that? Well, we saw what happened when Crawford got in there, man. I mean, at the end of the first round, you knew that shit wasn't going to go too sweet for Earl Spence. Second round, you were like, oh my God, what's going on here? Then after that, it got to a point, I was shouting, stop the fight. I thought Crawford was going to kill him. Like, that's exactly what I thought. He's going to kill him. And he dominated him, stopped him in the 9th round and become undisputed at 147. So Crawford deserves credit for these guys he's fought and the wins that he's had. Then he goes up to junior middleweight, 154 pounds, and fights Majimov. To this day, people don't give that man credit for that win. I think it's crazy, you know what I mean? He was an undefeated WBA champion, dangerous, awkward style, and to be honest with you, with that Olympic pedigree and amateur background, Majimov right now beats most of the cats at 154. You know, look at how many fights he has and look at who he's fighting. He's fighting elite guys. He's not fighting guys with 10, 11 fights. And he's handling business. So they need to stop all this craziness. But Crawford did go on to get a unanimous decision, become a 3-division champion, and pick up a strap. But the WBA strap, I just think it's unfortunate that people aren't giving him credit for that. To be honest with you, that Majimov fight is probably the most important fight for Terence Crawford leading into this Canelo fight because Majimov prepared Bivol to beat Canelo. Crawford just fought Majimov. So I think he has a real good chance based on how he performed against Majimov going up there against Canelo. Now, I'm not saying Canelo and Majimov are on the same level. I'm not saying that. But as far as the flat feet, Majimov is more awkward and herky-jerky, but cutting the ring off, looking to throw big shots. I just think Canelo will let his hands go more than Majimov did. But again, I think that was what Crawford needed to really see, hey, you know, can I handle this kind of style? Someone who maybe I can't put a dent into, but I may have to increase the volume of punches. I may have to, you know, deal with being forced into exchanges that I don't want to do. And I may have to really dig deep and do like Hood Champion says, either find a way to win or I'm going to lose. And I really think because of that, you got to stop and give Crawford a chance to beat Canelo. So does he have a weak resume? I mean, if you're looking at only names compared to Canelo, it doesn't scream superstar list. But there's some name recognition there. But with Canelo, again, you got to look at who he fought, when he fought him, if there were weight clauses and all kind of crap, to really be fair. And then I think you get a little bit of a different story. I mean, Crawford beat 10 current or former world champions, became undisputed in 2 divisions, and became the first male fighter in the four belt era to do that, trying to become the first to become a 3-time undisputed. So I just think the criticism with Crawford is not the skill level of the fighters he fought. To me, it's more like the star power. He just doesn't have the names with that star power. Got a couple, but not like Canelo. And I think that's the problem, man. But if you look at Crawford's resume, it's not really built on all that drama and shit. The lights, camera, action, the red carpet, the A-listers. His resume is built on dominance, not on drama. Canelo's resume is more the drama, the big name, the big show, but not really on dominance when he gets in the ring with those opponents. So we just got to wait and see now when they do get in the ring, because I just think, that it matters when it comes to Terence Crawford and it comes to Canelo and who they fought. And I think that a lot of credit should be given to Terence Crawford and even Canelo. And Crawford beat 10 or 11 former world champions. I should have did a little more. I think it was 10 or 11. I don't know. But Crawford handled business, right? Now, when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, Canelo Alvarez has done the business. We know he fought Floyd Mayweather. He fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Daniel Jacobs, Rocky Fielding, David Benavidez. They were negotiating that fight. There was a rehydration clause that was proposed. Canelo was going to get like 90% of the it was some crazy shit. Benavidez agreed to everything, and they still chose not to fight him. Why that fight never materialized? I think we all know why. You know what I'm saying? Because Canelo doesn't want to fight him. He could say he felt disrespected, etc. I think he knows getting a fight with Benavidez is going to be a very high-risk fight. But when he fought Mayweather, Mayweather brought him down from 154 to 152 pounds. So he had to lose 2 additional pounds. Now that he's from where he's used to stopping at when cutting weight. For a lot of people who think that's not a big deal, it's only 2 pounds. Who's at the door, Pocho? Okay, I'm almost done, okay? For those who think that 2 pounds is not a big deal, look at what Eubank Jr. put himself through. So, once you get down to a point to where the body just can't cut any more weight, it gets pretty bad. But Canelo's able to get to 152. They had to fight. Canelo lost. Canelo fought Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. was drained from 168 pounds. We had 168. He looked emaciated, and they made him cut down to 164.5 pounds. And he hadn't eaten and drank in like a few days. It was messed up what they did to Chavez Jr. So to me, Canelo definitely, I don't think he deserves any credit for that win. Then when he fought Daniel Jacobs, there was a 10-pound rehydration limit. That's an IVF rule that was enforced by Canelo's team. So they made sure Daniel Jacobs couldn't rehydrate to where he was comfortable. But, it is what it is. And he fought Rocky Fielding. Now this is the fight where Rocky Fielding, man, it was supposed to be a rumored catchweight, right? But Fielding fought at 168, but he came out after saying that he wasn't allowed to rehydrate the way he wanted to, and he said he just didn't feel like himself. So the rehydration clauses and everything, it affects guys' performances, and that's why Canelo kind of gets, attacked and lambasted, because people read about this shit and they're like, damn, that explains how he was able to just get on the trajectory that he was on after he fought Floyd Mayweather. And then the whole thing with David Benavidez, they're like, shit, that's why he can't get a fight with David Benavidez, because David Benavidez, he's not going for these clauses and all this bullshit. But Canelo knows he's the A side, and when you're the A side can do A side things. And, catchweights and rehydration clauses are things that they can get away with, because, hey, if a fighter wants to make the most money they've ever made in their career, then they gotta accept those terms. You know what I'm saying? So what makes it really important is Canelo fighting Crawford. Although Canelo put people on rehydration clauses and catchweights, Crawford didn't do that. So Canelo's like, look, I'm the smaller guy going up, but I'm the A side. Crawford going to fight Canelo. He did pursue Canelo, though. He did pursue Canelo. But Canelo's like, I don't even think Canelo would have agreed to none of that shit. But Crawford just said, to get the fight done, whatever he wants. Crawford knew he really kind of didn't have a leg to stand on, even though Turki Al-Sheikh would have kind of advocated on his behalf. Crawford just didn't want no BS. I think Crawford's like, I ain't blowing $100 million payday. Whatever he wants, give it to him. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is, you know. Crawford's resume, some say that it's strategic, it's historic. If Crawford beats Canelo, he becomes immortal. With Canelo, they're saying, hey, he has a pretty good resume, but his resume has some built-in advantages in some of those fights. So how much credit can you really give him? But what I'll tell you is this, man. Alvarez's resume, you may question it, but he has one of the deepest resumes in boxing today, and it's not without nuance. Now, he's faced a lot of champions, and as far as their status at the time, they were pretty important people. Now, let me find this thing that I have pulled up, because I was like, I pulled this chart up. Okay, here it is. When he fought Shane Mosley, right? Let me get some coffee. When he fought Shane Mosley, it was in 2012. Now, Shane Mosley wasn't the Shane Mosley in his prime. But he was a former 3-division champion, past his prime, but he was still a name. Canelo got a unanimous decision win. I personally thought that fight could have been stopped. Canelo fought Austin Trout, no doubt Trout. He was an undefeated WBA 154-pound champion, top 3 at 154, had just beat Cotto. And I remember when it looked like Trout was doing pretty good till Canelo hit him with that right hand, straight right hand, and Trout turned into a Puerto Rican and started dancing salsa in the ring. And Canelo was able to get a unanimous decision win. Then he fought Mayweather. You know, we all know Mayweather was the big dog. Canelo was a 154-pound guy. Mayweather drained him down to 152, and he lost. They were trying to rob Mayweather anyway. Mayweather got a majority decision a win, and Canelo got the loss. But they were going to try somehow to jerk Mayweather, which is crazy. Then he fought Erislandy Lara, depending on who you talk to. Lara was an interim WBA champ at 154. Some would say Lara lost. Some would say Lara won. The bottom line is it was a split decision, but it was controversial. Then he fought Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto was the lineal champion, top 5, pound for pound. He was past his prime. But the bottom line is he got in there and Cotto was able to get the victory. And he did beat him. But that wasn't a prime Miguel Cotto. He fought Amir Khan. Amir Khan, just like most of us thought was going to outbox him. Looked like Khan was going to go on to just outbox him and get the decision. But Amir Khan, like he normally does, you know, he has a big heart and big balls. But he can't take big punches. As soon as Canelo hit him with the Guadalajara bing bing, Amir Khan was chest to canvas, ass in the air, looking like somebody at a Puff Daddy party. Former unified 140-pound champion, moved up 2 divisions, got KO'd. That's why some people are saying Crawford moving up 2 divisions, he's going to go out like Amir Khan. But Crawford is not Amir Khan. He fought Liam Smith in 2016, the WBO 154-pound champion. Was undefeated, top 5 at 154. He got KO'd. Fought Chavez Jr. Already talked about that. That was bullshit. I don't give him no credit for that win. He fought Gennady Golovkin twice, 2017, 2018. And Gennady Golovkin got robbed in both of those fights. That's my opinion. Canelo got the wins, but he really should have got losses. He lost those fights. I was watching the first fight, and I was like, this is ridiculous how they're jerking Triple G. I watched the second fight with Mexicans. I watched it with Mexicans. And I was in there going to war with them. Because, you know, they're passionate about Canelo. You know what I'm saying? All that Viva Mexico, all that shit was going on in the house. And I was sitting there cracking up. I was like, Viva El Triple G. And they were laughing. And then what happened? About the 3rd, 4th round, they started saying, oh, shit. And I just got quiet and I just looked. I was like, They're like, Canelo's losing. I'm like, yeah, he ain't winning. By the end of the fight, they were shouting at the TV, cussing at the TV. And at the end, they were like, yo, he lost. I was like, yeah, I think he lost that fight. And when they announced him as the winner, they got pissed off. One guy threw his cerveza across the goddamn room. He was like, yo, I'm a Mexican. I like Canelo, dog. But he lost that shit, dog. Y'all know I don't talk with all that slang. But that's what he said. Yo, he lost that shit, dog. I was like, yeah, he lost. Anyway, man, I bounced up out of there. But Triple G was one of the pound-for-pound greats, and he was elite in that first and second fight. That third fight, that shit doesn't count. He just came back to get that money and go his ass back out there to Triple G from he's not from Uzbekistan. I can't remember where he's from, but he's somewhere, something-istan. Kazakhstan. He went his ass back to Kazakhstan and chilled. Fought Rocky Fielder. Rocky Fielder he was limited opposition. That was an easy win. Daniel Jacobs, a rehydration clause. Fought Sergey Kovalev. I still got to wonder, although Sergey Kovalev was past his prime, how he got knocked out the way he did and looked the way he did. That shit almost looked staged, but, Canelo got the win. It was at 175. That was a pretty big deal. But still, the way Kovalev went out just makes you wonder how. You know what I'm saying? Especially since Canelo ain't been able to do that shit the last few fights. And actually, the last couple of years. Caleb Smith, Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders was a good win because the way he broke his face. That's one win. I'm glad Canelo destroyed that dude the way he did. Fought Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's a great fighter. He only has one hand, his left hand. And Canelo just walked him down and eventually TKO'd him. And he became undisputed at 168. Fought Bivol. We know Bivol put the bing-bings on him. Went in there and fought Golovkin in the third fight. That was a joke. Fought Jermell Charlo. I thought Jermell Charlo was going to fight back in boxing and do something. Charlo got hit one time with the Mexican hot sauce. He realized that wasn't Texas Pete. That shit was too spicy for him. And he got on his bike and ran the whole time. Jaime Munguia got in there, was giving Canelo a really good fight till he got touched. And then Munguia, for the most part, he just became gun shy. Then he fought William School, went out there and picked up the belt from William School and became undisputed again. William School was the mandatory, so it wasn't Canelo's fault. It was an awkward style. School had a lot of talent. He didn't show it, but I think he could have outboxed and easily beaten Canelo. But when the secret society's in the house, the house fighter's going to get the victory. So I think School was told, hey, follow the script and don't deviate. And I think that's what happened. But as far as Canelo, like I said, there were some weight clauses, and I had a chart that actually lays out even more. I don't feel like digging that shit up right now. But the bottom line with Canelo and his resume, there were some advantages, man. And his resume is stacked.
Unknown caller.
Hold on. Hello? All right. Thought that was one of my son's friends calling. Let me mute this. There we go. But yeah, with Canelo, man, I think there were some of his fights came with some advantages. But when you're the A side, you do that. A lot of fighters do it. You know what I'm saying? I can't just come out here and fault Canelo. There's a lot of fighters that do it. But what I will tell you is his resume is still one of the deepest in boxing. You look at Floyd Mayweather's resume, that shit is crazy. Look at De La Hoya's resume, it's crazy. Shane Mosley's resume is crazy. You know what I'm saying? You look at Canelo's resume, it's crazy. So a lot of these guys who go down as icons of the sport of boxing, they have amazing resumes, man. And whether it's timing or whatever it is for Canelo, the bottom line is he had to get in the ring and do the business. And I just think in this era, Canelo definitely has one of the deepest. Crawford, it's not his fault. Crawford tried to fight the guys. They wouldn't, that whole other side of the street messed them up. Tried to fight the Garcias, the Thurmans, trying to fight Porter. He was trying to fight everybody. Everybody. You against all of them. They just wouldn't, it just is what it is. So Crawford is very fortunate to have Turki Al-Sheikh looking out for him. Anyway, man, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. We could easily sit here, man, and poke eyes at people's resumes, but when you stop being so pessimistic and be fair to these guys, you're going to see Crawford did a lot of great stuff and fought great fighters. And Canelo did too. But you can understand the argument about the resumes being weak, but you can also understand the argument about the resumes being very strong. Anyway, we're going to find out what's up when they get in the ring, especially if Crawford beats Canelo. That shit is going to speak volumes about Crawford, the level of opposition he faced, and his talent. And it's also going to say a lot about Canelo and maybe come back to haunt him, this whole thing about it was just the timing. He fought guys out of their prime. It was the catch weights, the rehydration clauses, and everything else he did as an A-side to give himself an unfair advantage entering that ring. But I'm going to, as of right now, I'm going to tell you, and like I'm going to keep saying it, I think Canelo should be the favorite. Crawford can win, but look, you can't be stupid here. Canelo should be the favorite. But that doesn't mean he's going to win. You know what I'm saying? Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.